come out. Okay? So I'm on everybody's side because I learned that from God. God's on everybody's side, even the stinkers. That's what we got to understand. Love your enemy, love one another, treat each other like you want to be treated. I mean, it's a little different with men and women. I mean, we look at where did that come from? But it's a little sexist, you would admit. Well, I'm going to open the door for the poor little lady, the weak little, lady here, whatever. But we really know that they're not the recessive. They're not the weak ones. It's actually their bodies are stronger. They live longer, extra layer of fat and everything, a better constitution, because they have to bear the children. So it's just not true. It doesn't hold water. But yet we hold to tradition, and it is a little sexist. But I mean, I'm like that too, because I think that women are very special. And the whole golden rule thing is kind of unique, and it has to be tailored for the male-female paradigm. In other words, if I'm a man, I need to consider the perspective, the perception through the woman's eyes. Okay, our brains literally work differently, and men need to see that it's a lot different than the way we think. I mean, we spend, 7 days a week in estrus. I don't know what the term for that is. It's just that, we're always ready, right to go. But for the lady, it's just, once a month. I don't even know what it is and for how long it is. But it's not like us. They're not driven sexually like us. So they're looking at stuff a lot different. And so if they're trying to live by the golden rule toward men, they might have to do things that they really aren't so much driven to do, except they're driven to please their man. You understand? Like satisfying him sexually. But when it comes to them being satisfied, they want to do it when they want to do it. And that's it. The guy's got to get that. And that's it. You don't get pushy. You leave them alone as much as you can. And if the relationships went like that, we'd see a lot less breakups. The sensitivity. The golden rule, but tailored uniquely for the male-female paradigm. So I'm giving a little bit of advice for, boyfriends, girlfriends, and spouses, to get along with each other. I mean, the sensitivity and the respect. You've got to really give that to each other. And it should work. It should work. There's no guarantees when it comes to love, because it always takes two to tango, and people fall out of love for various different things, and it's really sad and heartbreaking. And if you're in love with someone and they want to break up with you, it is like you become one flesh, like it's described in Scripture. When you're married to that person, you've given them your heart, your mind, your spirit, your soul, your body. You've given them everything you have to give, and they decide to call it quits. And it seems like, wow, why'd they do that? And it kind of flips you out maybe, and it feels like somebody took a chainsaw and cut you right down the middle. So be it. I mean, again, you need God at those times. I've been there, and I turn to God, and He's seen me through, and He'll see you through no matter what you're going through. Has He seen you through thus far? You're still alive and kicking? Well, then trust Him. This much faith. He'll see you through whatever you need to go through, friends. So it's easy to have erroneous belief systems. It really is. And, that's really all of us. It's ubiquitous. Okay, we all have to deal with this. And it's so simple to happen. And you know what? I mean, I understand, that as a man, I know what girls like. I know what women like. I know what females like. They like financial security. Who doesn't? God understands that. So it's not like I'm judging or condemning women for liking that. Of course they do, especially women. I mean, they get pregnant, they have babies, and yeah, they don't want to be living in financial insecurity and fear. God, I get that. God gets that. But, for me, the girl of my dreams, she says, you know what? I want a lot more than money and the financial security, monetary security. I want a good man. I want a guy that's solid that I can count on. Because the rest will fall into place. I'll trust God. So I need a godly woman. And then I know that everything will come up roses, okay, because I trust God, not the money. So I don't care how much money the guy has or doesn't have. That's the girl of my dreams. That's who she has to be. And that's a pretty special woman. I'll tell you what, they're not a dime a dozen. Let's put it that way. All right, friends, I'm quickly on to some recent current events and on talking points I wanted to get into. I wanted to comment on my opinion of the female of the species. Personally, as a just a regular guy, I just think they are exquisite creatures, and the older I get, the more I appreciate the female. They're glorious, sacred creatures. They're enthralling, they're intoxicating, ecstatic, euphoric, delightful, luscious, orgasmic, cosmic, heart stopping creatures. And that's just a few of the adjectives, verbs, and adverbs that I want to use for the female. But precious, precious creatures. But I could go on and on with how I feel about the female of the species. And ladies, you should have the highest self esteem. Keep your ego down. Don't let it go to your head. But you really are very special. And it's the way God made this paradigm, He really did. And we know that. We know how irresistible the female is to the male. I mean, just the typical average guy, let's just say, okay? Leave it at that. That's how they feel about you. So you should feel the same way about yourself and have very high self-esteem. You are God's best work, in my opinion. And I think that's, I speak for the typical guy out there. Yeah, last week I talked about the Pony Express. I'd like to go back to, I say that, somewhat tongue in cheek and jest, but something? Be nice. I mean, if it's a less stressful reality, why the hell not? It would make sense to do that. It's just that, I got to hear what's going on halfway around the freaking world, all across the country, when we can't take care of the problems in our own local communities. What do I take care of the problem in our local community? Just report on that stuff till we fix it. Then we'll span out from there. How's that? I mentioned we're all culpable of supporting these evil men through our delusion, our sometimes willful, the path of least resistance. But it really imposes a lot of burden on the downtrodden, the people that are bleeding out there, hemorrhaging, by complying to these monsters. And we really got to stop doing it. But, all these evil goings on by these people in the social economic realm, this wealth imbalance, the extreme poverty, the injustice, the fact they don't want to solve these problems because it's job security and relevance for these. It's sick. I'm telling you, friends, consider what I'm saying. I was thinking of some good reasons. There's many to be generous as much as possible, giving to charity. Gideon's Bible describes love. They've supplanted the term love with charity. But it's written that if we're not charitable, at least giving at least 10% of our gross income to charity, then we're essentially robbing God, as pointed out in the book of, I can't even think of it right now. But it's the last book in the Old Testament. And it goes to show that, whatever you do in life, friends, don't get old. I say that, of course, in jest, too. But the brain isn't what it used to be. But it's said that with the measure we give of our wealth, we in turn will be given. There's a lot of good, logical, down-to-earth reasons to be generous, as much as we can. But remember the parable Jesus told of the poor widow. It was an anecdote that this happened. I guess he witnessed this. That gave a couple of pennies in the church, but that's all she had to live on. So she gave vastly more in the sight of God than the rich that were pouring in out of their riches. But they kept the vast majority of their riches. You understand? So in the sight of God, the poor little widow putting in 2 pennies gave more than the rich. So it's all a matter of relativity, right? It's all relative. And, last thing you want to do is die rich. It's like dying with your pants down, because it's harder, like Jesus said, for a rich man to go to heaven than for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle. You treat it like a hot potato, man. And it's told that we are to use worldly wealth to win friends, so we are welcomed into eternal homes. Good, solid reasons to be charitable and generous as much as we possibly can. Remember, it's all relative to our financial means. And one point I always make is that it helps us to break that cheapskate spirit we all seem to have. We all love money. We got to admit it, confess it. And also it's written that charity covers a multitude of sin. You see all these very solid reasons to be generous and charitable. Good ones. I want to know that all these people that keep pushing the vaccines, that they're not making any money. Otherwise, it's a conflict of interest. They're out there saying, oh, it's so great and there's no scientific dissent. Bull. Bull. The fact that the earth has reached its carrying capacity is a scientific fact, my friends. Look into it. So why aren't I justified in going out there and harassing, menacing any pregnant woman I see and say, abort it, please, I beg you, and start running commercials. Please, ladies, save the earth, abort your babies.